Hey solos. So you're going to Walt Disney World all by yourself, and you are hoping that you could get some extra time to be able to look for certain special things, or maybe try something different, or maybe just get like a really nice historical overview as you are preparing for your Magic Kingdom day, while you're in Magic Kingdom, while you're back at the hotel after Magic Kingdom. What can help you, despite this podcast, of course? Well, solo spoiler, there is a brand new book out called I Love Disney's Magic Kingdom, 100 Surprising Facts, Magical Quizzes, Fan Favorite Trivia, and more about Disney's Magical Kingdom. That was written by Danielle Kelly, aka the Dapper Danielle, and Ian Wilson. And guess what? In this episode, I'm going to talk to the Dapper Danielle herself all about this book, and it is such a wonderful conversation. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do, and welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World, now in its second year. So I have another wonderful book recommendation for you, and another conversation with someone that is just so important in this kind of content creating space, because Danielle, the Dapper Danielle, has been creating content and providing all of us with history and trivia and fun facts and recommendations since COVID. And now there is this whole book where all of that is put together for Magic Kingdom. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful resource if you are going to Disney solo, whether it's your first time or whether it is your 10th time, 10th, 100th time, I should say, because there was stuff that I learned in this book. And there was also stuff that I thought to myself, wow, I really wish I knew that the first few times I was going to Disney solo, because that would have been really, really helpful. So I just can't wait to share this conversation with you. So the Dapper Danielle, like I said, is a content creator, a former Disney cast member, and she's been creating content since COVID. And this book, The Unofficial Fan Guide, I Love Disney's Magic Kingdom, was published by Adams Media, and it really makes you learn more about the park, about Magic Kingdom, but also helps you navigate certain historical elements. It's great if you're a novice to Disney travel, and it is great if you are an expert to Disney travel. Plus, one thing that Danielle shared, which I did not know, was that she did the audio guide for this as well. So this book is a nice compact book. It would fit in your suitcase really easily, but to have the audio guide option to listen to along with reading, I just think is so wonderful. And it was so wonderful to talk with her, and I think you're really going to love our conversation. So in this conversation, we talk all things Magic Kingdom. We talk about things from the book. We talk about things that we like. We talk about things that we don't like that's happening at Magic Kingdom now and in the future. And it was just such a really wonderful, wonderful conversation. And Danielle talks about how so many of her trips and so many of the things that she got while she was preparing for this book were because of her solo travels. So hopefully we'll get her on the podcast in the not too distant future to talk more just about her solo travels. And hopefully we'll get her back on the podcast to talk about any upcoming books, hint, 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 that are in the works, which is really exciting. Again, this book was published by Adams Media, and you can get it wherever books are sold. There are some links below. But there is a reason why I am publishing this conversation on this date, and that's because this weekend, Danielle is actually going to be in Chicago. Now, I'm in Toronto. Chicago is pretty close, all things considered, but I really wish we were a little bit closer so I could meet her in person and get my book signed and all of that. But if you are close to Chicago and you are close to Anderson's Bookshop in Naperville on Saturday the 20th at 4 p.m., then make sure you go and get your book signed this weekend. Chicago, Illinois, 4 p.m. The link to the event is down below, so enjoy. Maybe you'll meet some other solos there, and that'd be really great too. The links to Danielle's social media are also down below, and my social media are down below as well, along with the Patreon. And if you wanted to watch Danielle and I talk all things Disney and have a great time, then you can join my Patreon. It's a free 7-day trial, and you can watch our solo story, which I think is pretty cool. All right, anything else? No, let's get into it. Hello. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to talk with you. Hi, Danielle, also known as the Dapper Danielle. Welcome to the Disney Solo Magic podcast.
Hello, hello. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I am so excited to have you. You have been a wealth of trivia and information and fun stories on our social media feeds for a few years now. And the fact that you now have this book that is coming out that we're going to talk about, I'm just so excited. So, before we begin, for some people, you don't need an introduction, but before we begin, could you introduce yourself?
Well, hi, I'm the Dapper Danielle, and I'm on all the social medias, on the TikTok, the YouTubes, the Insta spams, the Book of Faces, all the things. And I got my start on social media on TikTok first, back when I was a frontline cast member in 2020 when the world shut down, and I was stuck at home like every other cast member was, and I was bored to tears. So I downloaded a little app called TikTok and I just started posting some goofy little videos to send to my coworkers that were also in quarantine. And then my college program students, my part-timers were messaging me in the work family group chat because you have those that core family that you talk to in at work.
Your
And they
faves.
were texting me, oh yeah, exactly. And they're like, Danielle, you like trained all of us. You should just start putting some of your random training facts out there on the internet and see what happens. And then a couple hundred views turned into a couple thousand views, and then that turned into a thousand followers. And now I am a full-time content creator and I share random Disney things. And now I have a book. Who knew that just talking about random information on the internet would lead me to writing a book with Adams Media and Simon and Schuster? Crazy.
Did you ever want to write a book like not related to content creation or even Disney, but has that always like been your like secret, maybe not so secret wish to write a book?
No, because what's funny is that when it comes to like writing, it is not my forte. I can word
Oh,
dump
I
and
do want to just pause that.
yes.
No, it is a very well written book full of like
Oh,
great things. So don't put your writing skills down
well, and a lot of
as
that is
we're talking
thanks
about how
to
great it is.
oh my goodness. Well, really that's all thanks to my co-author Ian Wilson, who is my brother-in-law. He's also mentioned on the front of the
Oh,
book. And his major and his actual like job is all in professional writing and everything else like that. So I came to him and I'm like, Ian, if I do this, it's gonna sound too much like me. Like it's gonna be like when I talk. And so I just word dumped all of these things. And then Ian came in behind me and made it sound more professional. And really, it was him taking my hand and be like, Danielle, we can't start every sentence with y'all. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Because I do that in my normal everyday language. But yeah, but most of the history, well, actually all the history and just presenting that information is all me. Ian helped me clean it up in the back end, so I had to make sure that he was written in there as my co-author on the book. And but so but my outlet is obviously talking to people, it's teaching people face to face, giving presentations. That's why I'm fine behind a camera and talking in front of people. And I'm also very creative in like the illustration and drawing aspect of stuff. So I love the arts. So I always pictured doing like a picture book or something and
oh
having
yeah.
somebody else write it. So then to get the offer of the book and then I'd be like, "Oh, is no pictures? Okay, that's fine." So it was a little bit of a challenge, but it was amazing. And I never pictured having author on my LinkedIn. But I can officially say that that's probably been one of the biggest surprises of my life, and I am so grateful for it.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And I think that when you begin communicating information verbally versus written, you
Hmm.
always will read things and write things with an ear to how it is going to sound to the reader slash listener. And that's what I think
Right.
is really great about the way the book is written is that it is so accessible and it does seem very much like there is this friend next to you that knows a lot of stuff and is going to tell you a lot of cool things.
Exactly. And that was really when we were writing the book, one of the first thing that was also presented was, "Oh, Danielle, do you want to also do the audiobook?" And I said, "I expect to do the audiobook. Why would I not?" And they're just like, surprisingly enough, most authors don't like doing that. And it's like, nay, nay, that's what I'm going to do first before anything else. So I had to make sure I wrote it in a way that it sounded natural to me. And yeah, like you said, I wanted it to be accessible for everybody. And originally, I did start word dumping so much obscure information, and that's something else Ian also helped me clean up was Danielle, we're getting a little too deep in the weeds. We got to refocus back over here. We can't have the entire Adventureland thing all about Orange Bird, so we got to refocus it.
I mean,
And yeah,
I learned things about Orange Bird from this book, so I don't know. You can tell
good.
Ian we could have done a couple more things about Orange Bird.
But if I did hear from Ian, I probably would have heard it from the publisher also. So all good.
AJ Wolf, who wrote Disney Adults, also did the audiobook, and she she was like, "Yeah, obviously I'm going to do the audiobook." And I think that that's such an important tie-in because of the popularity of audiobooks, but also how like distinct your like for AJ her voice, but for you your voice and your look. And so it's I think people would be really disappointed not to hear you talk about those things because
Oh yeah.
when you are reading it, you are if you know who you are, you're already hearing your voice say those things.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Somebody actually bought the audiobook first because they're like, "Oh no, I only know your voice."
Right.
And like because if you follow me on TikTok first, then you're like, "Oh yeah, no, this is I recognize Danielle's voice. I listened to her at the middle of the night. She's her voice is what clicks and what says, "Okay, it's time to go to bed because this video is popping up literally in the middle of the night and I need to go to bed." Um or even I don't know. I didn't realize okay, that was something else. I did not realize how recognizable my voice was until like having a little more of a social media following. And then at one point, sorry, this is a random tangent in the middle of the
No,
podcast that you probably don't
please.
care about, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. The
There we go. That's the
there
thing I was missing from the book, actually. I was expecting to see that line on every page.
literally, oh my goodness. And I tried and I was like, oh, can I end the book with night night, sleep tight, dream of churros tonight? And Ian, the publisher, were like, maybe not. I was like, okay,
All
fine.
right, fine.
Uh, right. And but basically I was saying that my voice was recognizable to the point where when I go into like the women's restroom at Disney World and I'm with other people, or last time I was with my mother and she asked me a question from the stall over, and then I responded just with a, yeah, I got you. And somebody all the way down stalls over yells, is that the Dapper Danielle's voice? And I was like, yeah, we'll say hi after we wash our hands. So I that was really when it clicked for me that I'm like, okay, I guess my voice is pretty recognizable, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it is such a narration of, and like it's a trustworthy voice because people are expecting a narration of Disney. And so
Right.
that's why it's great that you are able to also do that through the written word, through this book, but you aren't losing that audio version, that audio part of it as well. That's so great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, we really haven't talked about the book. So, the book is an unofficial fan guide. I love Disney's Magic Kingdom, 100 surprising facts, magical quizzes, fan favorite trivia, and more about Disney's Magic Kingdom. Who doesn't love Disney's Magic Kingdom? But I'll tell you what is great about this book for me. So, our podcast is the number one podcast for solo travel to Disney World. And I
Ooh,
have found when I have talked to people about their solo stories, that so many people like do want to just do Disney a little bit different or a little bit deeper. And what I
right.
love about how this book is laid out is that it's a series of vignettes, but it also really, like you say this at the beginning, that it's really like a little bit of a VIP tour. And so if you're like going solo as an adult, you can go and like read these little chunks and then look for these little Easter eggs. I just think that is such a great companion for a solo trip for somebody that wants to go deeper. They don't have their partners, they don't have their kids, they don't have their friends. They can just look for all these cool things and be like, "Ooh, that's a fun fact."
Right.
Yeah.
The and yeah, and that kind of ties into it being very much my natural voice. And when I was starting to prep for this book, I literally took my phone and my voice memos and I walked how I would the normal park path.
Mhm.
So this is literally following me on my solo adventures because when I go with other people, and I love going to Disney World by myself, and I really want to stress to y'all, you need to go to the Disney parks by yourself at least once.
100%.
And It is a whole nother view. You're not distracted by other people. I'm the local. So when family is out of town, comes in, and then I go into hostess mode, basically. So then my brain switches. I'm not focusing on the same little tiny details. I'm not focusing on the history. I'm making sure everybody's staying hydrated and that they have food in them so they don't get hangry. So the tension and everything, it switches. And I'm like, no, y'all need to go to Magic Kingdom, to any of the Disney parks by yourself to really enjoy, focus on yourself. And I know some people are like, oh, that's weird, that's awkward. Nay, nay. It will be totally eye-opening once you actually do it.
And as so many people on the podcast have talked about, it actually doesn't feel lonely when you're there because you are surrounded by
No,
a community of like-minded people.
literally, yes. And the
Yeah.
amount of amazing conversations I've had with either random guests I'm sitting next to, we're both enjoying a Dole Whip, and then I'm like, oh, like something happens and then the mom or something will turn over to me and just say something sarcastically and then I'll just say something back kind of thing. And then we have a full blown 30-minute conversation. Or just you find those cast members and you ask them how their day's going. Oh my goodness, you're on the college program. What college are you from? And you have these really great community building things that happen, but you only can have those conversations because you're there by yourself.
Yeah. And really appreciate all of those details. Appreciate the smells that you talk about. Appreciate all
Yes.
the sounds and the songs. And like, one of the fun facts you provided is like, oh, the song that you hear on the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is actually from this and this and this, and they got cut. And like, and so to be like, if I was there with like my sister and my family, I'd be like, hey, fun fact, and they're like, we do not care. But I so I
And you're
could
like,
just
but
say
you
those things in my
should.
brain and be like, well, the Dapper Danielle told me that. So
Yes.
now you can be everyone's like companion.
Literally, yes. And I love like even some of the other fun facts I throw in there. I try to say, oh, hey, if you actually go to this thing, you can pull up. I think I do it for two of them. I say one's in a reference to a Mickey Mouse episode in the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, and I give
Mm-hmm.
you the exact episode and what season. And the other one is inside the Pirates of the Caribbean, and you can find that exact audio in the movie kind of thing.
Yes.
So I try to give stuff so when you can either take you can be at home, you can find these things on Disney Plus, or if you're in the park and you're by yourself, you can look it up in live time and try to find these things. It just brings the whole experience together.
Yes, and there are so many layered, like the book as a whole is like all the information that you provided is so layered. So if it's your first time going, then like yeah, it's really useful to be like get a mint julep at Casey's Corner. But if it is your millionth time going,
Right.
then be like, oh, listen for this tiny little audio piece because this is referenced there. Like that's really thrilling too.
Oh yeah, and I try to pepper those in like evenly throughout the book too. Was my
Mm-hmm.
main goal, was so that way it wasn't like over the top, like too much in-depth information for Adventureland, but not enough for Frontierland. So I try to sprinkle those in around every like attraction or so.
Was there one land that was easier for you than others? And
Uh,
was there one land that was harder for you than others?
I think, well, okay, there's actually two parts to this because I would say the hardest thing for me was knowing so much about Frontierland's history and not being able to talk about it because we knew that Tom Sawyer's Island was closing. So, Tom Sawyer's Island, the Liberty Bell, all these things I have so much great history about did not make it into the book.
Ooh, that must have broken your
And
heart.
oh, it did. It did. And I was also getting nervous because at the time that I signed this contract, I'm like, okay, Country Bears is open. Do I focus on that because that's like the only attraction I know is going to be around at this time? Will people be interested in it? And I was able to tie so much history into the homages in Country Bears that I was like, okay, it blends out pretty good. It's all good. But then the hardest one, I feel like for not emotionally the hardest, but the hardest to find the most consistent information on was probably Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
Um, and how much changes we went through in the 90s for New Tomorrowland and how those stories are basically extinct unless you can find a cast member that opened that team and they can confirm, yes, this was an actual thing. This is what we were taught when this rolled out. And that's how I did a lot of that information for that land. So that one was a little harder to clarify on.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it's the land personally that I have the least interest in fun facts about. And I
Right.
don't know if that is just the nature of the land itself or my own kind of interest, you know?
I would agree because I'm not a Fantasyland girly. I know some people are, and they claim like the t-shirts and everything that we have here at Walt Disney World and at the Disney parks. They're like, oh, Fantasyland girl. I'm not that. I am a Frontierland, Adventureland girly, and I've learned this about myself a lot after writing this book. And so, yeah, I had a harder time talking about the lands I was least interested in.
Mm,
But then when I really started getting into the nitty gritty, it actually sent me down more rabbit holes of, oh, this connects to all this and this Imagineer. That was pretty cool.
yeah. Well, so if somebody has, because you just talked about going down rabbit holes, so if somebody has like been following you, how much of the information from the book are they going to like is new information? Like, how much information did you do research specifically for the book versus stuff that you could just like pull from your own personal archive?
I would say it wasn't so much well, there's not really a certain percentage because most of the things in there I had some inkling about. It was more of getting confirmation on if it was true and not just the elder cast members when I was in the middle of training pulling my leg and saying that this was really what happened and it really wasn't. Or B, like verifying dates and timelines and like,
Mm,
okay, does that actually match up with this thing or something that you've always been taught as like, oh, this is a Disney fun fact. And then you start doing research on it and you're like, these timelines don't match up. This is just either cast or lore that's been passed down as truth and it's really not.
yeah.
So it was really just double checking myself. And I didn't have that many for this book. I actually had it more for the new book that's going to be coming out in January, and that's going to be the Epcot book. And
Very
I had to do a
exciting.
lot of fact checking in that one.
Yeah, so this past summer, I did a series about all the deluxe resorts. And as somebody that does a lot of research and related to history just on my own, what's so frustrating is how meticulous Disney is about so many things.
Oh
And
my goodness.
yet, there is such a gap in the historical record for so many things. Or like a painting at a hotel that there's no artist attributed
The fact that
and
there
so
was
when
a
you're saying that I'm
mural.
just like maybe that's just the corporate culture.
No, it's not the corporate culture. It's just laziness at its root. And like this is actually something that did not make it into the book is that there was a mural back in one of the original Epcot pavilions, actually, so bounce over to Epcot, that was taken apart. I think it was for Horizons. It was the end mural and it was done in sections, taken apart and then rolled up and it was going to be sent to storage. Got lost in transit, it has never been seen again and it's by the artist that has so many beautiful paintings inside the American Adventure. He's one of the official NASA artists and created so many things for the Apollo missions. And I'm like, you're literally lost history, art history. How dare you? And there's so many of those things that just go undocumented or just
Yeah.
unfazed. And I don't know why. And I know many a friend that works in with the Imagineering teams and with certain now with the archival teams. And what's hard is, and I try to explain this, is that Imagineering and the people that are technically in charge of that documentation, their funding comes from the parks. And whether or not a park is willing to pay to have their history documented.
Mm,
So a lot of these people that are in charge of like scanning in these giant these like show Bibles and all this documentation, they're on temporary assignments and they don't have a consistent job. So
right.
only if the money for a project is there can they throw a little money towards the archivist so that way they can keep downloading and documenting these things. And they're still stuck in the 2000s for some of these things. They just have these piles of paper that are going bad, or some things are like, okay, we'll never get to it. It's been 20 years. It just gets tossed.
I know it's just so interesting how much stuff goes into the front end of a lot of these different things and that it's like okay well we did it stamp and move on but I'm just like don't you know by 2025 by now how much like people like this history and how much you should be documenting.
Well, and I think it's still something of people are like, I don't, and this, I guess, is kind of the narrative I'm trying to argue is that people do care. And that's why I started off with
Yeah.
saying random Disney things in the middle of the night that you probably don't care about, because I just assumed nobody else cared about the random things that I loved. And then all of a sudden my videos started getting more followings. And then I'm like, oh, people actually do care. This is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really like, okay, Disney, maybe you need to be paying more attention to this as you're changing and moving stuff out. Do you have documentation of this? Do you have like references saying this is from this thing?
Yeah.
Um, and unfortunately, I don't think they do.
No. And I when did my first Keys to the Kingdom tour, I've done it twice. People were like, "Ooh, I don't know." Like my family, not Disney people. They're like, "I think it might ruin the magic for you. I don't know if you're going to enjoy it." And I was like, "No, it's the exact opposite because now once I know all these like little bits, I'm so much more impressed by everything
Oh
that I'm
yeah.
looking at." And your book was really highlighted other things to look for and I identifies just all that thoughtfulness that that millions of people walk by every day and they don't even notice, but that thoughtfulness is what makes it magic. And so
That
why aren't you
artist,
documenting it? I mean,
right,
you are. You're doing
exactly.
a great job.
That artist was like, "Oh no, I'm passionate about this. I know that this is going to push the story and it's going to push the narrative farther by taking a little extra time and doing this thing."
Yeah.
And the right people will find that, and it'll grow its own love and lore later on down the road. And you can see that in certain pieces too of how you're like, "Oh, like things as simple down to like the concrete in the
Yeah.
Magic Kingdom and in the park." And I talk about that in a couple sections, especially for Adventureland and in like the circus area.
Mhm.
So very, very cool.
Very cool. One of the things I learned from the book that I was really impressed by is how the It's a Small World log flume, is that the right way to say it?
Yes.
Like helped create the ride like infrastructure engineering for Pirates of the Caribbean, which is something that's totally different, and Tiana's, right? And like it's
Right.
like those connections are just like pixie dusting of how Magic Kingdom is.
In the obscure science behind it and
Yeah.
realizing, oh, if they didn't have a reason to test this at the 1964 World's Fair, we wouldn't have these attractions that we do till to this day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I went on the It's a Small World ride at Disneyland Paris, or whatever it was called then slash now, I was really turned off by the fact it was so sponsored by their like local or their national telecommunications company. I was like, "Ooh,
Oh.
this feels kind of icky." And so it was really interesting when I was reading and you reminded everyone that it was like its corporate sponsorship has always been a huge Disney thing.
It has been, and really, it again, it boils down to who's paying for it. And
Yeah.
it's something that we still have to this day. And with all these attractions and things that are coming, Disney is fronting a lot of it, but it's also these third-party corporations that are funding these things. Half of Animal Kingdom was built because of like companies like McDonald's.
Mhm.
Epcot was built because of GMC. Magic Kingdom, we were desperate for anybody. And so we found the Florida Citrus Commission and we made Orange Bird. So it's
Oranges,
like
Coke.
literally, yes. So it is fascinating. And I think like even or another good example is like right now, it's very subtle. It's not very loud, but it's there of how the People Movers still sponsored by Enterprise, and their
Right,
their
right.
logo is right there on the very top of the signage. It's just we're so used to seeing it that we're like, oh, okay, that's fine. That just belongs there.
Yeah. I met up with a group of people earlier in August, and this one woman said, "Oh, yeah, I came all the time because my dad worked for and then named an insurance company." And so, I mean,
Yes,
again, I'm Canadian. So, I mean, I think that insurance company probably works in Canada. But, and then she's like, "Well, because it's sponsored." She's like, was like telling me all of these things that I was like, "Oh, right."
right.
Totally forgot. Yeah.
It's so interesting. And I think highlighting things like that in the Magic Kingdom book, and I didn't do it so heavily in the Magic Kingdom book, but I definitely do it a lot in Epcot. And um yeah, it's just finding that balance. And you can see where certain decisions, once you have that mindset, certain decisions in the attraction you can tell was a Disney decision versus a
Mm-hmm.
corporate decision by another third party. And it's
Yeah.
so fascinating to look at that.
I know we're not talking about Epcot, but one of the things that really bugs me at Epcot as a Canadian is the Canada
Yes.
Pavilion. And when people ask me
Yes.
about it, I'm just like, it's because Canada dropped the ball. I was like,
Literally,
Morocco
yes.
didn't, but Canada dropped the ball.
Literally, yes. And we were Canada, even though she's right there, is technically the first pavilion that you start off with. Yeah, it was Canada didn't know what to do with it. They didn't want to necessarily associate or give opinion on what they wanted in their own pavilion. So this is what you get. But at least you have legitimate totem poles now, and they finally got
Yeah.
updated. So
Yeah. We also are represented by a hotel.
yes, you are. But it was big in part of your train history though. So that kind of ties
I
in.
know, but people think it's our like it's like
It's
our
like
White
the
House, and I'm
hotel.
like, no, it's a hotel.
It's a
You can
hotel.
go
And
visit
just
that hotel. It's
yeah.
beside the buildings that you think it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, was there anything that you, in writing this Magic Kingdom book, that really surprised you? A tidbit that you were like, "Oh my god, I totally didn't know that."
Hmm.
I I knew, like, for example, that Figaro was from Pinocchio and Minnie Mouse, but I didn't
Yes.
realize the connection, like that Walt liked the cat so much that they adopted him over, and that you can find little Figaros as a cat woman. I'm very excited about that. So, like, those are I love that. I love those extra like pieces of history that were brought in, for example.
Oh yeah. Those fun little pieces of history. I think it was more of the obscure things of like you see a display, right? You see a random item and you're like, that has to have a backstory to it. Or is this a cast member joke? Is this like something that ties in some obscure item? And I want to say the one that still kind of sticks out to me still to this day is the reference of the solar power, or we're supposed to represent solar power palm trees in Tomorrowland.
Yes.
And for the longest time, I did not get that storyline. And I think it was because the storyline of the building, the actual like electric company that the exit of Space Mountain was supposed to be or was, I didn't understand that storyline because number one, I never went into Space Mountain because I chicken exit that ride all the time. So I never went into the building attached to it. And it wasn't until writing this book that I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, it actually said power company on it and had all these other references. And that makes sense why they're still there. But that original storytelling is gone. So they're just randomly metal palm trees. So
Right.
to highlight some of that history was like something that was harder to double check.
Think that's why your book is such a great resource for people who are interested in some of that history and some of just those facts that kind of come together, and that when people are going solo, that's an element that can really enrich their trip. And
Oh
I
yeah.
appreciate that they can kind of take you along with them. Is there a land that you think is best for solos?
Hmm. I think it depends on what your mission is while you're solo adventuring. Is your
Mhm.
mission to just get on all the rides? Is your mission to see as many characters as possible? Is it to just try all the food in a park imaginable? Then I would say there's different lands that are best for each of those things. One thing that comes to mind for me is like a place that you can either find a quiet corner or you can find food and maybe prop up a phone because of course my mind goes to social media mode of where can I prop up a phone on a ledge and do a quick outfit of the day or a quick review of something. And surprisingly enough, it's going to be Adventureland. Just with how many posts and random little like stations that they have where I can prop it up on a ledge and safely and call it a day without my phone falling. And when you're doing that by yourself, you don't have easy access to having somebody help you take photos or help you record. So that's usually the land I'm in for that.
Well, I was going to say Adventureland too, and I think it's because it has so much lore and it
Right.
has such a great balance of different I guess there's no fast ride. I'm not really a fast ride type of gal anyway, but there is so much lore. And I love how you said like Swiss Family Robinson has the best view of Magic Kingdom. I talked about that with somebody else I interviewed. Like, solos, just go up there. You don't have any like kids running after you. Like, go and look and
You can squeeze
enjoy.
off to the side. You can have these other families run past you while you're
Yeah.
looking at all the
Yes.
details.
Yep.
Crazy,
It's A
crazy,
plus.
crazy.
What do you think of all the changes? Because when I was reading it, I couldn't help but think of the changes to Frontierland, the changes to Big Thunder Mountain, the changes.
Right. And that's something of I was talking to my publishing team at Adams Media and Simon and Schuster, and I'm like, so there's going to be a lot of stuff that's not going to be the same here in like a year. Are you okay with that? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. I just don't date the book. And I'm like, we've already dated the book. It's like we're not mentioning certain things. So once a lot more things open and we finally get to that point, we will probably see a 2.0 version of I Love Disney's Magic Kingdom. And there are some things I'm nervous about because I wrote a lot about my favorite homages in Big Thunder Mountain.
Mhm.
And it's making me nervous like, okay, are we going to add to the pre-existing history? Like we finally saw the media previews of the reference to Rainbow Caverns, which is a reference to Disneyland's history, is now going to be brought over into our Big Thunder Mountain. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I would have loved to have this information for the book, but I guess we're gonna have to wait until the 2.0 version. Um, or I don't know, there's like a reference to the Apple Dumpling Gang in which is one of my dad's favorite movies. So personally, I want that reference to stay in the queue. I don't know if it will survive the update. So there are some things I'm nervous about. We'll see what happens, but I'm really excited for like what they just did to Beacon Barrel. And we're
Mm.
seeing the media previews
It
come
looks
out and
so great.
it looks so good. I can't wait to go and experience it eventually for myself. No, I did not get reservations at all. So if I go, it's going to be piggybacking off someone else because someone else canceled. The um but I'm so excited to just go in and just stare at the walls and just look at all the little details. And I don't know. I think finding my hope is that the people that are working, the Imagineering team, the designers, everybody that's working on these different things, that they are nerds about these projects.
Mhm.
And you can tell that the people that put in love into the Beacon Barrel, they're nerds about Pirates of the Caribbean.
100%.
And so when we get into um Piston Peak, when that opens up in the very center where the new cars land, I hope that the people that are working on it are just as much of nerds as the ones that worked on Radiator Springs and California Adventure.
Mhm.
So bring in that same level of energy, bring in that same amount of love for that IP, and I will be happy with anything.
With Tiana's Bayou Adventure, the queue there, it is like museum quality storytelling in terms of
Yeah,
like the history of African American soldiers in World War I and women
right?
in labor. And I was like, why isn't there a whole manual towards this? Like, why are we given a book to read as we are walking through the queue? And when I saw the media previews for the Beacon Barrel and like the main Imagineer who's like wearing like a bandana, like an eye patch, I was like, oh, good. There's like research nerds here too. I am into that.
Right.
So yeah, like I'm not super excited about Cars Land, but I'm hoping that it's going to bring the same kind of immersion, like that researched immersion there.
Right. And who was it? The like I know there is love for certain things and actually Tiana's is a great example of I got a chance to meet on the last day of Tom Sawyer's Island. I was on the island and I met it, they're not a Disney Imagineer. They are actually a third party rock work designer that Disney hired and was in charge of painting the rock work and reforming the rock work of Tiana's.
Mm,
And I was talking with them and all of a sudden she went into like I was just asking her questions and then all of a sudden she clicked. You know when you find those
yeah.
people that are so excited about that thing because I'm just like that too. And then they just start word dumping about what they're passionate about. And she goes into yeah, we had these type of rocks, but that's not native to this region. So we had to change it to the formation of these type of rocks and the coloration that could be found in the South in Louisiana. And I'm just like, yes, tell me all the things. This is amazing. And so that
Yes.
makes me
This is
feel
where I want to live.
this is where I want to be. And I
Yeah.
want to make sure that that same love and passion is brought into the other things. So when Piston Peak's being created, y'all better hire her. Is Disney, if you're listening to this, y'all better hire her again. And make sure that you have a great reference to our national parks in the middle of the country.
Well, it's I mean, that's why I wasn't I want to be careful how I say this for people. I'm sad that the Liberty Bell is gone and that water is gone. But I'm
Right.
not sad that the cruise is gone or the very stereotypical images of Native Americans are gone because I'm like, this is not how you would do it now. Like the update to the Peter Pan ride is so well researched and respected. They didn't even tell anyone about it, which I assume is because of the backlash they would get, like they did with Tiana. And so I appreciate that there is so much thoughtfulness that is going into certain things. And I
Oh yeah.
can't help but think that that's what Piston Peak is going to be like. And it'll be really exciting to read what you have to say about that when it's all done. And
I'm
Villains
so
Land.
excited. Oh yes.
I'm sure you're totally not excited about Villains Land.
Well, actually, I'm probably out of all these exciting things that are coming, I am probably the most hesitant about Villains Land.
Really?
And I think weirdly enough for me, it's kind of like when you're looking at the MC universe, right? So
Mm,
then I like just like how the princesses, when you talk to the princesses in the parks, they know of each other. They are neighbors, but they don't technically live in the same universe,
right.
right? So then, okay, is Villains Land, are we acknowledging that all these stories overlap with each other? Are they neighbors? Are most of these characters, they ain't alive no more. So are we going into like Disney villains hell? Like what's going on? So I'm very intrigued to see how they are going to communicate this. And I think it's just me being a story consistency person that I want to make sure that
Mm.
that story and that original that IP is still protected in the story.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I talk about when I'm talking about the different holiday parties, like a Christmas versus
Yes.
Halloween, I'm like, Christmas is fine. It's Christmas. They're not doing anything special. But for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, Halloween has very trickster energy. So they can like push the boundaries with different things. And
Oh
so that's
yeah.
kind of what I expect with Villains Land is that it's going to be a different set of rules because they're villains and they're trickster
Right.
energy. And it will be interesting kind of that balance because like I love the little section of Beauty and the Beast in Fantasyland,
Oh
but then
yes.
like we get very close to Ariel's grotto, which not the same like area at all, not the same
No,
continent, right?
exactly. You're
So
like, okay, the theming and transition happens between this one pillar to this one pillar,
yeah.
and you have a 5 inch space to be able to do that transition seamlessly. So it is really back to back over there. And
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was feeling a little bit better after seeing the villain show and in
Mm.
Hollywood Studios and after witnessing that and seeing the fantastic performers in that and seeing that storytelling happen of
Mhm.
like, okay, they all exist within this thing and their connection is the magic mirror. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that story. I think that's pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Mhm.
So I want them to take that same energy and bring that over into the land.
Right. Danielle, this was so wonderful. One last question I have for you. At the beginning, you give us a nice outline of all the E-ticket, D-ticket, C-ticket, etc. attractions.
Yes.
I want to know what E-ticket attraction that's still around now, so that's It's a Small World, Jungle Cruise, and Haunted Mansion, is the best for solos. Sorry, is this like a Sophie's choice?
And it is, it really
Okay.
is.
All right.
I would say here in Walt Disney World, it's going to be Haunted Mansion. And only because you can randomly stare at everything in the queue. You have time to read what's there. You don't have to worry about like again talk like I'm most conscious about not being rude, or I want to make sure that I'm giving my full attention to other people that I'm with. So even in the parks, if I'm with other people, I'm not on my phone. I'm even though probably should be because of the content creation, need to edit stuff in live time. Uh but when you're by yourself, you can read all the tombstones. You can listen for the tiny things. You can when you're in the stretching room, you can try to force yourself towards the back wall so you're the last person to exit so you can hear the gargoyles whispering, get out. And you're not having to worry about the rest of your party getting onto the attraction. So I would say Haunted Mansion for sure.
Okay, I love that. And I actually had marked the Haunted Mansion section in the book because I love how you
Yeah.
outline the murder mystery. And what I wanted to ask you was, why don't you think that part of the queue has been open since COVID?
Well, so it has been opening, but only if I want to phrase this correctly. Only if the guests are behaving themselves.
Mm,
So if there's too many problematic guests and people are climbing on things, people are hanging from things, then the cast members are going to be like, haha, I don't want to do the paperwork today. Rope it off. You all are waiting in the sweat box and you're not getting any other option for that. And then they'll just close it off and make you go through the boring side of the entrance. So that has had to happen a little bit here recently. We even saw I mean, this was years ago, the girl climbing into the grave for Master Gracie, and like that was just a caught on camera. It happens so often that it's really a safety concern, and we
yeah.
want to make sure that these show and prop pieces are like alive and that they well,
Or
even though
or
they're in the
not.
graveyard, the but you can still interact with them and you can still play with them instead of them being damaged. And some of them are not currently working because unfortunately they have been damaged. So that's
Mm.
where it's like now it's just easier to rope it off. So that's there so you can like if the queue's open, you can stand off to the side and you can follow through and see all the little hidden details of who done in who in the book.
Well, yeah, and that's what's so great because anyone that's gone through the queue and sees all that stuff and they haven't been able to access it now can like talk about or understand what that's about and all that
Right?
stuff. But
Well,
anyway, Danielle, this was so
yeah.
wonderful. Is there anything about the book that you want to say that I did not ask you about? It's available
Well,
wherever books are sold.
it is available
Adams
wherever
Media,
books are
Simon
sold.
Schuster.
Yes. And honestly, I feel like every time I talk about it or I do a video about the book, all of a sudden it will sell out and at like your local Barnes and Noble or Books a Million. It's everywhere. You can even buy it on like Target's website and Walmart's website. Uh and honestly, buying it online will probably be the quickest way to get it. Even though there is something amazing about going to the physical bookstore and grabbing it, or pay attention to my socials because every once in a while I'll say, "Hey, I just did a signing here. I signed extra books." So like actually that just happened at Huntington Beach. They ordered extra because they heard about the craziness that happened in Tennessee, so they ordered extra. And me and Ian, we signed a ton of extra books so that way you can call that location no matter where you are in the US, maybe Canada. I don't know. I should have asked that too. But you can call that location and they will ship to you that book to guarantee you got a signed copy of it. So always be checking up on the socials, but it is available everywhere. The audiobook is available Audible. If you're a Spotify premium member, it's included in your premium membership, which is awesome.
Awesome.
Uh, so yeah, it's literally everywhere, and I'm so blessed to have it be that way.
And how can people get in touch with you?
Honestly, again, it is the Dapper Danielle on all the things on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. I'm just not on the Twitters or the X or whatever it's called. And yeah, honestly, check out everywhere. I'm
Everywhere.
current. There's some other fun projects in the works that I can't talk about just yet. Some more things to come, so pay attention to the socials.
Well, that's really exciting. And as always, the links to the books as well as all of Danielle's socials are down below. Danielle, this was so wonderful. I'm so glad that we got a chance to talk. And we didn't even talk about your own solo trips around the park. So I feel like this will be the first time we're talking, but not the
Oh
last.
yeah. You know what? Twist my arm. I guess I got to come back for another episode.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.
Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you enjoyed this episode and all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. You can reach me on all of the different social media. All of those links are in this description below. You can also listen to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. It'd be really great if you rated, reviewed, and subscribed. It's really a wonderful way to let other people know about the podcast. And as you know, we also have a Patreon where you can get bonus content, you can get bonus episodes, you can get all of the videos of us doing the solo stories, and a whole bunch more. So come and join us on Patreon. And thanks again for listening to the podcast. Bye.